Everybody, to another edition of Bars to Bricks Ministries. Today we have a special guest. We are again on the American Nightmare, Innocent and Incarcerated, Gary Wayne Sutton. Today we are here with his brother. I'm going to bring Jimmy on. I guess give me 1 sec here. Let me get caught up on some comments. Shelly Longmire, thank you very much. Shelly Longmire just became a member. Thank you very much. Goat, I'm doing good. How are you doing? Goat, everyone's having a great and blessed day. Good day, good day. Respect, Richard. How you doing? I guess I could put some of these up here, huh? Yeah, please hit that like on your way in. Subscribe, join if you can. Hey, Judy, how are you doing? Richard, Free Gary, yes. And Carolyn, finally we got to the bottom of the comments. Oh, you're welcome, Carolyn. This was it's a much needed deal. Without further ado, so for those of you who don't know, we'll give a little recap. February of 1992, Gary is 27 years old, celebrating his birthday weekend with his girlfriend. His friend comes up missing over the weekend on Friday. They find his friend's body on Monday on Gary's birthday. To further the nightmare, Gary is accused of killing his friend and later convicted and is sits on death row innocent. We have listened. We've talked to the alibi. We've heard his alibi. We've heard the private investigator. We've talked to others. Now we are going to hear from Jimmy. Let's welcome Gary's brother, Jimmy. Hey, Jimmy, how are you doing this evening?
Doing pretty good. You all right?
Doing good. Doing good. The so I mean, I can only imagine just from the 6 weeks I've been involved in this case, it's a nightmare. So I could only imagine as sitting. Well, I can't even imagine what Gary's going through. But I mean, even you guys as a family. I mean, that's tell us a little bit about how hard has that been on the family and everything. And
Well, it's been a challenge for us. Even my kids, when they was younger, they struggled through school on account of this, uh, and it's just been a challenge. And it's took a lot from me because here I've had to, go to jail and see them and stuff, and we should have been, doing stuff together all these years. you
yeah,
know. And my dad's 92 now, and the only thing he talks about nearly is when he goes to see him, he can't hardly stand it when he goes to leave because he can't bring his son home. You know, he just can't hardly go see him. And my mother died, and it'd been several years since she had seen him because she wasn't able to drive that far or even ride that far, in a car.
sure.
And she died and not seeing him for several years. It's been rough. You know.
So Gary didn't get to see his mama for the last years of her life. Then, uh,
Oh, it probably I'd say probably 4 or 5 years, or maybe a little longer. At least 4 or 5 years or a little longer. She was pretty well. She couldn't go. She about had to have a wheelchair, and stuff and everything, and she just couldn't ride that forward, you know,
sure.
and and it really hurt her, you know.
What? Oh, I can imagine. I can imagine. Just I mean, well, I say I can imagine, but I really can't. I mean, I can't fathom what that would be like to go through, whether it be on Gary's side of it or even the family, and especially knowing you guys know he's innocent, and that's got to just be so trying. Um, so I was
Yeah.
looking over some more of the case stuff, and I'll come across something, and something will just tell me there's something here. There's something that old gut feeling, and well, I kept stuck on the statement. where he was shot at 11:55, where the guys heard these shots, but he was only released at 11:25 from the jail. So that's only 30 minutes. Is that now how far is it from the jail to where Tommy was shot? Is that a I mean that
Uh,
seems kind of an unreasonable timeline to me because well if you're
well,
planning
my guess is from where he was at to that jail was probably maybe a 20 or 25 minute drive, somewhere around there. Um, and to book somebody in and then for somebody to get him out, I don't understand how that could happen.
yeah
I really
well
don't.
well yeah and it don't well yeah because it seems highly unlikely to me that well for one it seems highly unlikely that only happens in the movies where someone goes and bails somebody out of jail to take them off and kill them. That's
Right,
you know that really
right.
that's not don't much happen in real life. And then furthermore, they would have had to have taken that means they would have had to have the shotgun and everything when they picked him up, which he didn't even leave with them. And let's make that important that it's been noted since day one that Gary
Mhm.
and his uncle Garrett bonded Tommy out of jail, but Tommy did not leave with them. He left with that woman with dark hair in what they thought was a Ford Fairlane. And you know, but even if he would have left with Tommy, so they're hightailing it, booking it out to this area, trying to make it. Got the shotgun and everything in the car,
Mhm.
supposedly, or in the truck,
Right.
and he's just going to calmly ride in between them in the truck or on the passenger side. It just don't seem.
Well, there's no way something like that could happen. I mean, um, you think about it. Somebody calling in said they heard shots, whatever, and then they come out and they investigate or whatever, see if about that and everything. I don't understand. But now I'll tell you another thing. Whatever happened there, they didn't want nobody to see it because the tape at the jail that recording and all, it disappeared. The lawyers wanted that for
Yeah.
evidence, but it disappeared.
Well, it even seems a little more weird to me that not only did they not have tapes, people at the jail are nosy. When you go to pick somebody up from jail, them cops are all looking to see who's getting them and who they're leaving. They're nosy, and but yet nobody. I mean, it just seems kind of man. There's so much in this, and I want to hear it. And I've talked to Carolyn about this, and I know this answer without even having to ask you guys, just from talking to Gary. But I want to hear what you got to say about that. So when Connie and Gary and Jimmy were out looking for Tommy. When they said
Mhm.
that it says in the reports that they had stopped at the bar, and Gary had commented to the waitress, asked if she was married, and when she said she was, he said, "Wouldn't it be a shame if you your husband found you disappeared in the morning, or missing the next morning, or something like that?" And I just so what was your thought? I mean,
That seems like an odd thing for somebody to say to
well,
me.
especially Gary. I mean, it
Yeah,
it resonates in my mind, and that conversation that I recorded, post up with Gary, when he's talking about Susanna, the attorney that didn't file paperwork that could potentially cost him his life. When he said, "If I was raised not to talk bad to women, but if I
right,
was, I would call her everything but a white woman." He still never called her any vulgar names at all,
right,
and
right,
you can't tell me someone like that killed a woman. He won't even talk bad about a woman that could potentially have killed him. I mean, it don't.
right.
That's no. It's not possible. And like I told Carolyn, I told others, unless Gary is the coldest sociopath I've ever met. Because I've met some, doing time and all that. I've met some people that I definitely wouldn't want in my neighborhood. um,
Well,
but
you think about
I
this.
don't see that in Gary.
Well, you think about this. Somebody that's that away, they don't change. You would
No,
see it now in him. They don't change. You would
well,
see it now in him.
well, if anything, Jimmy, it would change the other way. If he wasn't that way with women, by all this female attorney, all she's done to him, you would think that would give him a bad taste to women,
Oh,
and all be all sorts of upset. I'd be calling her all sorts of names, and
oh, that lawyer, that attorney that he's got is the worst attorney I've ever seen in my life.
I
I've
agree.
never seen an attorney that bad.
I
Never,
agree.
never.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
agree.
I go down there, I go down there and try to get stuff from her. I mean, it made me so mad I couldn't stand it, but I didn't say nothing to her because he needed her for stuff.
Yeah,
So I didn't say nothing to her, but she would sit and just grin at me and say, "You're not getting that." I'd say, "Why?" Because we don't want to have nobody to have this stuff. Well, when it all come out, we understood why she didn't want nobody to have it.
I know. That's in fact that statement I just read to you come out of her brief. Why would you even put that in a brief that's from your attorney?
I have no idea.
Now this is
You know, and
I'm a
like the shells that's found at the place over there. Who? How in the world could them shells fall side by side?
well, and and that's what I said. I've talked to so many ballistics experts and people that have just shot shotguns and stuff, and I've been around a lot of guns. And like I told
Yeah,
Carolyn, I'm one of them people that I pick up all my shells and stuff, and so they're never side by side. Even if you shoot 50 of them, there's never two of them side by side like that. It does not happen. It is impossible.
yeah.
Um, it just it's and
Oh,
and and yes, Judy. The
now
appeal stuff
I
is
don't
a
know if you
public
know this
record.
or not.
Hold on one second. The appeal is public record, but if you don't know how to obtain that stuff, they don't make it easy to get. Tennessee makes it even harder to get files. It's like I can't get public information files from Tennessee. I have to have Carolyn or somebody get them because you have to be a Tennessee resident to get public information files in Tennessee. So um, Tennessee's a little bit different on their public records, yes, but they don't make them easy. Sorry, Jimmy.
Well, Gary worked in Seymour, and it was Seymour was below our house. Gary had to come from Seymour uh, by our house to get to his house. So a lot of times he'd stop at our house on the way home. And then he'd say, I'm gonna go ahead and leave. I said, well, what you hurrying for? Well, I'm gonna go over to Tommy, see if he's all right and stuff. And then a lot of times he wouldn't even stop at my house. He'd go on over there. He'd have Tommy something to eat. He'd say, I know he sat over there drinking all day and he won't eat nothing and he'll be sick, and this and that and everything. You know, uh, you know, and he'd bring Tommy over to his house, make sure he eats and this and that. And he'd bring him to our house and everything else, to his house, to our house. He was so good to Tommy that you can't do that to a friend that you're that good to, that you're
Right.
watching out for that much. You can't do that.
Well, and
You know.
he said that him and Tommy had never had a cross word.
No, no.
That
Now him and his brother did.
yeah,
Now
yeah.
him and Tommy's brother did.
That's what he said. He said there was some
Yes.
really bad blood in between Jimmy and Tommy's brother, older brother,
Well,
and
no, they wasn't really bad blood. They just got into it. They got into the scrape, and then it was over. They never had no more trouble. It was like, you know, sort of like fast friends or whatever you want to call it. You get into it, you fight, well, it's out of your system, and it's over with. And they never did have no more trouble after that.
yeah.
You know. But
Tommy's brother's mean to him.
but now I'm gonna tell you now. I don't know if you call this hearsay
Come from Tommy.
or whatever, but Tommy sat around and told us all when he'd come up to the house, we'd play cards and stuff and everything. Tommy'd come over, and James and Gary and me and a bunch of us would just get together and play, cards and stuff. But Tommy would talk about his brothers mean to him,
Yeah,
really mean to him.
I've heard that very abusive, even into their prison time and stuff. That his uncle was very abusive and everything to him. And I want to go back up here and answer a question. Hey, Tristan, how you doing, buddy? Thanks for stopping in. Um, so, Mark, on the his initial counsel, well, for one, they weren't qualified. For two, I don't know. I get a feeling that they got spooked, that they weren't supposed to help them a little too much. It just, I don't know. The whole thing just seems weird to me. But they withheld the alternative suspect. They withheld all sorts of information that has later been discovered. Heather found a bunch in Gary's uncle's files, legal team's files that Gary's legal team hasn't even bothered to get and still hasn't bothered to get. They've been trying to contact Jimmy's attorneys have been trying to contact Gary's attorneys since Jimmy's deceased. All them files can be transferred over, and Gary's attorney won't even return the phone call. So um, it's a bad deal, Mark. It's a whole. There's so much in this case that is so unnerving, and but yeah, there is so much more that this should have been case should have been overturned 30 years ago. But when you got a council that don't care, that don't help a lot. When you got a council that's not even doing their basic duties, that don't help. Um, so it just it was a bad deal. But anyway, I kind of wanted to touch on those, Jimmy. Those were important questions to kind of to hit on, and um, yeah. Oh man, was that Vicki Lawrence or Reba McIntyre? I remember the Reba version. Mark, night lights went out in Georgia. Yeah, I appreciate it, Tristan. I appreciate jumping in. James, not Jimmy. I'm sorry. Yeah, the but it. This whole case is just riddled with errors because not only I don't know, has anybody told you what I found on the autopsy report yet?
You talking to me, Kevin?
Yeah. Has anyone told you what I found on the autopsy report?
No.
Okay, so they claim that your brother killed Tommy on Friday, February 21st of 1992.
Okay.
The autopsy report says the cause of death was two shotgun blasts to the base of the skull. The date of death was the 24th on Monday, and time of death was unable to be determined. I've talked to several medical examiners and people in the medical field and all that, and they said flat out this. It's just, this is, in fact, one of them got irritated. No, this is what the three things they find in an autopsy: date, time of death, and cause of death. Said the date of death that's on the autopsy was the date of death that medical examiner found him to have been killed. So their autopsy report does not even match with the date of death that they tried them on.
Well, you know, there's so much stuff that when you really look at it, it don't match up. I mean,
No,
everything. Uh,
no.
It just don't match up.
No, all
But I mean, we found stuff like that and everything else. And we got other lawyers to do stuff, and they'd say, "Oh yeah, they'd read over it, and oh yeah, you can't, no, you can't do this, and you can't do that." We'd pay them thousands of dollars. Well, they'd take off of the case. Now this is the honest truth. They said we didn't know. The one lawyer, he's a big time lawyer. He said I didn't know that Mr. Smeltzer was the one prosecuted this case. He said, I can't help you. He said, I can't help you.
I know where it
And
is too.
and give us about a third of our money back and said, I can't help you. You know?
Damn.
yeah, yeah, and that's for sure. And um, Mark, I just answered your question in the comment too. Um, his attorney filed stuff. She filed stuff out of order, even in the feds. They filed a writ of certiorari before they filed a 2254, which is out of order. But and then when he was granted a new trial, they didn't file timely file, so he's beat on the new trial now.
Well, they had to kill him Tommy furnished too. Same thing.
Well,
Maybe
we're
that.
supposed to love the same over Buck
You're
County.
exactly right, Mark. There is a lot in this that man.
Well, see, Mr. F.D. Gibson over in Blount County, he was probably one of the best lawyers probably we had. You
Mhm.
know, saying that. But there was one John Gergen. He was in with him there for a while. But Mr. Gibson, he just come right out and told us. He said, listen, he says, I know that I'm not doing what I should do. And I'm not arguing the case the way I should argue. He said, but he said, I'm gonna come out, he said, I'm gonna lay my cards on the table to tell you. He said, I got to work in this town. I've got a business. And he said, if I keep on doing what I'm doing, he said, I'll never have another case in this town again. You know, you know. So I mean, he just come out and told us. He was truthful about it. Just come out and told us. But
Yeah,
he tried to get off the case too. He begged them to let him off the case. He said, I can't do this case. And the judge said, yes, you will do this case. Now
yeah.
that's
I
like,
saw. Yeah, I saw that, and that just you can't force. You can't really force them. It just I don't know. It don't make sense. You can't force an
well,
attorney, and especially when they say they're unqualified, because basically that judge violated their Fifth and Sixth Amendment rights, counsel and a fair trial, because they don't get either one with deficient counsel, and counsel don't know what they're
well,
doing.
he said, I've never even sat in on a case with another lawyer, nothing on a murder case. He said, I don't know how to handle it. I don't know how to do it. He said, I don't know what angles to come from. You know, he said, I just don't know.
Yeah,
And the jury over there was tampered with. They never said nothing about that. And he even asked that guy that come forth on the jury. He said, "What do you think about it? Do you think you can go ahead and sit on this jury and do what you need to do?" He said, "Yeah." "Yeah." He said, "I've done made up my mind anyway."
That's the first thing.
So this is at the first of the trial, and
well,
even him talked to, he should have put him off the jury. Even him talked to about anything, he should have been put off the jury.
not only that, most of the jury in the Blount County case, there was at least two that in their voir dire, which is their questioning, that they admitted to having knowledge about the Sevier County case, and that they were just convicted in that case that was connected to the case they're getting ready to try. That's an
Yeah.
automatic assumption of guilt in someone's mind. That's a tainted
Well,
jury.
In the courtroom, there's two
There's
guys
and
since the county trial.
and then too, they had them in Townsend, and they talked about there is the place where they found that boy.
Twice a day they run over.
Twice a day they went there to
yeah,
and from every day, and they talked about there's where they found that boy.
yeah,
I mean,
and
and
that
I can't help but believe that they put them in Townsend. Why would they have to put them in Townsend? There's all, I mean, Blount County's a pretty good sized town. There are all kinds of hotels in right there in Blount County. Why would they take them plumb to Townsend to pass this place where the boy's body's found? For a reason, I think.
Well, and like Carolyn just pointed out too, Amy, Jimmy's daughter, saw the jurors with newspapers. They're supposed to be sequestered, and yet they're reading newspapers where this story is plastered all throughout the papers. That's not even, they tainted that jury, and then
Oh yeah.
the same in the Sevier County. Sevier County misled and tainted the jury. I found that in the evidence they presented. They have a ballistics report from the medical examiner in Connie's body where they found metal fragments they thought would be they and it has on the ME report bullet fragments found, hold for police immediate pickup. Well, that turned out to be the clasp to her bra, but they never corrected that, and they presented that paper to the jury that said something about bullet fragments, and then parading the gun and all that, and then, well, she wasn't shot, but we're just
That's
that's
what Miss
the jury.
the district attorney said. The head district attorney said.
Right, yeah, and it's just
Carry that gun around the courtroom.
it's
Yeah, passed it to all the jury members. Let them look at it. You know, to I guess put it in their head. Hey, this is what brought the woman to her death. But I want to tell you another thing. I don't know if you know this or not, but there was a Griffin woman, and she says, and she was talking to one of the jury members. You know, the jury box set back here. Okay, you can see it up the side and around behind the jury box. The people that's there watching, and listening to this trial. Well, she pecked her on the shoulder and she said, "Well, after somebody pulled out how she was talking to this jury member, and the judge said, "Ma'am, was you talking to the jury member?" "Yes, I was." She said, "What did you say to her?" She said, "I just pecked her on the shoulder and told her how pretty her hair was." She said, He said, "What's your name?" She said, "I forget what her first name was, but she was a Griffin woman." And she said, "Oh, I'm not no kin to her. I'm from Ohio." Well, now, what was the Ohio woman doing down here, a sitting on this trial, and she was a Griffin? What was she doing sitting there? Talk
yeah,
to start with, from Ohio, and then she pecked her on the shoulder and was talking to her.
Gary had about 15 family members
You
standing there from
know,
Ohio come in to.
that don't sound right to me, and I don't believe she's
no,
commenting on her hair neither.
not at all. And Corey, Corey is my vice president, by the way. He points out that it's a shame this happens so often in our country. Corey, it should also be pointed to note, and everybody else, that the state of Tennessee during COVID, when COVID started, there was 10 people on slated for dates for execution.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Gary was one of them 10.
Hmm.
Two out of those 10 have now been completely exonerated and relieved of their charges due to innocence. 2 out of 10. And now we know
Hmm.
Gary's another one out of that 10. How many more of them people on Tennessee death row are innocent? How many on death row global, nationwide? I mean, it's a shame. It's
But the police says we would rather let 10 guilty people go, as to put one
yeah,
to death, or put one in jail, whatever, that's innocent.
yeah,
We'd rather let 10 guilty people go. That's not the truth. That's not the truth.
not at all.
It's not.
No, not at all. And it's getting even worse in our judicial system. These prosecutors now, it's no longer about innocent and guilt, it's about numbers. They're all about this win ratio, and it's man, what about innocence and guilt? That's what court's supposed to be about.
Well, another thing. How do you? I mean, it all comes down to this. How do you put somebody on death row that you've not got one shred of evidence on? How do you do that? How do
well,
you do that?
not only that, Jimmy, it's even worse. How do you keep somebody on death row that all this evidence has been discovered that proves his innocence?
Yeah, and I don't understand this. And then it comes down to that one cop that swears to all this stuff and took all this stuff in, and he says,
Exactly.
"Here's what I've got to get a warrant, indictment warrant to arrest them." And then you get him into court, and he lied about all of it, and they made him admit it right on the stand. But he
Yeah.
says that's the way I have to do to conduct this case to get them into court to try them. You
Yeah.
know,
Well, and the both of those all the warrants they got under false pretenses, those should have been thrown out by the court. Those are Fourth Amendment violations. Those are huge. These are all the worst part about this case is these aren't just small, tiny court errors. These are all egregious, very major errors. Most of
yeah,
these
Major.
most of
Yes,
these errors will result in your automatic. It don't matter how damn guilty, even if he was guilty. These errors will result in your ass going home. But yet
right.
Gary still sits.
Still sitting there. Yes.
And well, we're
I
hopefully we'll
mean, I don't, but it's like, it's a major thing about when he's killed, how long he's killed, and this and that. And, that was one of the things that Gary's lawyer had down there. Well, they did bring in pathologists in.
mm-hmm.
And that doctor, um,
Harlan.
uh, at the one that Harlan, Mr.
Yeah.
Harlan, that actually said they did do it, and it was on their, it was right at the time, and this and that. Okay, they brought these other three in, and they said no. Well, they said if we could prove
Well,
this and get these others in to prove this, and it didn't happen, they said that's all it would take you to a new trial. Well, we done that. It didn't matter. They said that judge said it didn't matter.
yeah,
So
and that's just so, man, that there is so much in this case that just if people aren't scared, if you're in the United States and you're not scared, you should be. I mean, because this could happen to any single one of us.
anybody. You could be sitting right at your house, something could happen down the road, and you get accused of it and don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, remember, Gary spent the weekend with Carolyn for his birthday,
Right,
having a good old time, not thinking that, Monday
right.
morning on his
Yeah,
birthday.
but
On Monday, his friend gets found later on Monday during the day, and he's accused of his murder. And
right.
it's
And just because you go visit your uncle a time or two within that weekend or whatever, or you go out to eat with him, you and your girlfriend go out to eat with him or whatever, something, you get drug into something, and young's is together and young's done this. I don't understand this.
it don't even it shouldn't matter if he was with his uncle 24/7. If they couldn't prove he was with his uncle that weekend, and I don't think his uncle's guilty neither, but they had no evidence against Gary. They even said that in open court because they didn't want to separate the trials. No, because we would have to let Mr. Sutton go free. We have no evidence.
Well, they had several people saying that he come into his house that weekend several times. He was in, he was out, him and Carolyn and this and that, and all kinds of stuff. So that put him away from him. So that took care of that, you know. And
Yeah,
they said he was with him 24/7. Well, that right there proved that was a lie that he
yeah,
wasn't. You
yeah.
know,
Well, and so I'm saying it. Just because you see somebody with somebody all the time, don't mean. I mean,
don't
they
mean you're guilty of nothing.
right, right, and
Right?
that's what I'm saying. There
Yeah.
was no evidence. There was no evidence against his uncle, and there's surely no evidence against Gary.
No, there wasn't no evidence against none of them.
And of course, the
There
more we
was.
dig in, we see that there definitely wasn't. Um, and he was seen by many that weekend too with Carolyn. But the yeah, I don't know. It just
Well,
it's
now I
insane.
don't know if anybody's ever talked to you about this. Uh, uh, what was that guy's name? Come nice was Skip Gann. Mr. Skip Gann.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the lawmakers in Nashville. He worked in the office of the lawmakers. And if you had a problem with the court system not treating you fair, you get a hold of them. They'll send somebody out and help you out with this problem, right?
Yeah.
So he comes to Superior County. He goes over and he talks to Gary. Well, Gary says, "Well, we're supposed to be in court there Monday at 9 o'clock or whatever." Well, he's sitting there, and he's got a big old package of stuff, literature, saying what you need to try somebody for first degree murder, second degree, or
Mm-hmm.
ask for the death penalty, and what and all of this. He's got a big package. He's from a lawmakers in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he gets the judge, and the judge makes some smart remarks, and he says, "Well, you've not heard the overwhelming evidence I've heard, and this and that." So the judge throws it across the bench there and everything, and he had just had said before Mr. Gant got up, he had just said, "We're going to finish this. I don't care how late we stay today. We're going to finish these motions and all today because I'm wanting them out of the way."
Mm-hmm.
Well, when Mr. Gant talked to him and everything, and he said, "I'm going to sit in on it and hear all of this," he shut the trial down, and he said we're not going to hear no more till further notice, and take Mr. Sutton back over and lock him up, and we'll at further notice we'll do it later. And he waited till that man left town, and then he took it back up.
Yeah, it's
Mm.
disappeared.
Such
Yeah.
there's so
Skip
much.
disappeared. He's in some other kind of office in Nashville, but he's not in the uh, you know I don't know what he went to, but he's
Right.
in some other office now, Mr. Gann is. So,
Yeah, I asked Carolyn. I said, by any chance, or any of his original attorneys, are they still practicing? And she was like, no, it would pass this, that, and that. I was kind of hoping they were this badass attorney now and wanted to right their wrongs.
well, several of them is dead. Seven of them is older attorneys. Several of them is dead. And
Yeah.
the one in Superior County, he's so bad, he's got something. He's had several heart attacks, and he's got something wrong with him. He's not even practicing now, I don't think. He can't remember stuff. He's in bad shape. You
Man.
know, um, you could talk to him and keep make sense out of him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there you
Well,
go.
and I I don't really fault the original counsel as much because they said um, they weren't experienced. They said they'd only defended a misdemeanor. They'd never even gone to a felony trial before, and
Right,
want to
right.
put up for represent someone on a first degree murder. Here's these attorneys who've never even been to any felony trial, none, and they're going to put them
No,
on a death penalty case.
right.
That
And the
make
judge tells him he's going to do it.
Yeah, and yeah, and the judge told them they're going to do it, and then
Right.
they were so inexperienced. The judge picked the jury. I mean, and that again is another violation.
I've asked everybody that I've come in contact with, lawyers, everything. Have you ever heard tell of a judge picking a jury? No, we ain't, but it can happen. I said, "Well, have you ever heard of it happening?" No, no, we ain't never heard of it happening. I said, "Well, evidently it's against your rights,
Yeah,
or they would have done it a long time ago."
I, yeah, that I had never heard of that before.
No, I ain't neither.
that was crazy.
I mean, that's one of the main things. You sit there, your attorney and the district attorney sits there and says, "Hey, I like that guy, I like this guy, I like this." That is the whole point of this. How are you going to do that if the judge is going to pick the jury?
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
Uh,
not only that, it's the reason for the attorneys picking the jury, that way they can get a feel and stuff. The judge, if the judge was supposed to do it all, it would just be a bench trial with just the judge. It's
You might as well just let the judge say, "Hey, I don't want a jury trial. I'm going to let you decide it." Right?
right. Uh, Carolyn, the only thing I found on Sunday law had to do with alcohol. I found nothing on sentencing or anything. I looked clear back, all the way back into the books. I couldn't even find anything 40, 50 years ago on the books on that. So that's all I found. It was the Sunday law. It had to do with alcohol, but um, I was hoping that would be an awesome. That was a someone had told Gary that there was a Sunday law. You couldn't be sentenced on Sunday, and
There was.
Are they a law on that? I never did hear
Yeah,
if there
yeah.
was or not.
I never found anything on it. I looked it up here,
Okay.
well, probably 3 weeks ago, and I did quite a bit of research deep down into old laws and all that too, and
I just wonder if there's anything about a religious law about that. If it would be a religious law about on a Sunday, you know.
I like it. I, I don't know, but we might have to make one.
Well, if they ain't, they should really be because I don't think they should have a court day on a Sunday. I really don't.
Yeah, no, that's I'm gonna look into that. Definitely gonna look into that. But well, we're gonna go ahead and end for this evening. I really appreciate you being here tonight, Jimmy. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I've tried stuff. I've worked on this for 30 years now, and I'll tell you, you just wouldn't believe it's stuff I've done. I've been over at Alcoa Highway. I don't know if you're familiar with it, over right at the airport, and I have been out there measuring the road. I had to do it at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. We even hired investigators to do this. And they said, well, we don't know how to do this. Well, but we really do need to know how wide this road is because of all the stuff. So I'm out there 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning measuring a road. It's a four lane highway. It's got a grass medium in it.
oh man,
You know, I mean, I'm telling you, there ain't no ends to what I've really done. There ain't no ends to what I've really done.
well, and I know Gary has to appreciate it, and it's this is just such a terrible deal, and I'm with Heather. I'm here till we're gonna try to get to the bottom of this, get something figured out, and hopefully get him free. But oh yeah, they wanted to watch a ball game. That kills me that a ball game is more important than somebody's life. Yeah, and that's Judy. Judy, she'd never heard of a court hearing being held on Sunday. Judy was a sergeant at Missouri State Penitentiary. She is a retired prison guard. Oh, I think we must have lost Jimmy then. Well, we were getting ready to cut anyway. You guys have an amazing evening. Thank you for watching and listening. Um, I really appreciate everybody for being here and listening to this. This is a crazy, crazy nightmare. Please share this story with everybody. Please go to change.org. Look up Gary Wayne Sutton. Sign the petition if you want. There's a should be links in most of my videos in the description. There should be links to the change.org. I'm gonna try to get it in all of them here soon. That means going through a bunch of videos though and manually plugging in. They don't have a YouTube don't have a way to just do it all at once. But anyway, I appreciate you guys so much. Like Carolyn, free Gary Wayne Sutton. This man is innocent. You've heard it. You've heard the evidence throughout. You heard his brother. Um, There's no way that this man is guilty. Please get involved. Sign the petition. Share his story. Donate to the ministries if you can. Anything you could do to help would be appreciated. Anything. Pray for us. Pray for Gary. Pray for the whole team. We could all use it. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate everybody for being here. Oh, that's okay, Sierra. That's we were getting ready to call it anyway. The that yeah, I was getting ready to call it anyway. I'm gonna go take a gander at my VP's uh, car here. I will post my cash app. That is my cash app. Uh, no, why can't you serve on the jury duty, Judy? Now you got me interested. Gosh darn it! How come I can but you can't? There's the cash app tag for anybody who wants to know if you're able to donate. Anything helps. A couple dollars, whatever. Anything helps. Oh, that's no problem, Sarah. I gotta keep mine plugged in, or it'll. Well, my battery's taking a dump. It it's seen better days. My laptop's about 10 years old, so it's almost time for a new system. It's not in the budget, but this one works just fine. Anyway, I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the support for Jimmy. I want to thank Jimmy again. If you're still able to hear, I really appreciate you being here and appreciate the interview. And we will definitely have some more interviews coming on this case in the near future. I have Dr. Kev.